Hi, and welcome to Elite Literary Book Group's series on crafting effective sentences. In today's lesson, we'll be looking at specifically working with claim statements, and we're going to work on lesson 1 on a different kind of compound construction. So if you'll follow along with what's here, you can find some resources and practice work on our website at eliteliterarybookgroup.com. Okay, so let's talk about this kind of different form of compound construction. When you were learning how to construct sentences, you probably learned 3 basic types: simple, compound, and complex, and then maybe a couple of variations on the compound complex. This is based on kind of a compound construction, which if we think about what a compound sentence does, is it joins 2 related pieces of information together into one sentence where before they may have been 2 sentences. In this variation, what we'll be using in this compound construction is we'll be moving from a general statement into a more specific or explanatory statement. This can be a highly effective tool for crafting a claim statement. So what we're doing by this is we're going to be creating emphasis within the sentence by the use of repetition. We're going to repeat either a word or a phrase, and I think you'll see how it works, and it can be highly effective and a good tool to have in your toolbox for writing. Okay, the pattern basically looks like this. In a compound construction, normally you put 2 sentences together with like a comma and some kind of coordinating conjunction, or what your teachers may have called a fanboy, for, and, nor, but, or, yet, or so, as well as maybe a semicolon, or semicolon plus a conjunctive adverb like however or therefore. This construction is a little different. We're going to use one of really 2 pieces of punctuation. The first would be a colon, or we could, rather than the colon, if we're not quite wanting as formal a mark, we might use a dash. The colon can be used if we definitely want to go from a general statement to a very specific statement. If we're moving more informally from an idea to an example, we might prefer the colon, or I'm sorry, the dash for that one. All right, so take a look. What we're going to do is look at a couple of examples of how this works. And again, we're going to glue together 2 ideas, a general statement along with a more specific statement through the use of repetition. So here's our first sentence. Jonathan Swift's Gulliver's Travels suggests disappointments, a disappointment that comes from observing a race too blind to see its own faults. So you see there the construction. We've got that colon joining the two clauses together. We are using a repetition with the word disappoint, okay? And then our second example, to learn only about the differences we have without understanding our inner beings is to live with a void that can easily be filled by the political or the commercial winds of the movement, okay? So as you can see by doing this, we've used a colon in the first example, and I've used a dash in the second example. And again, stylistically, that's going to be up to you. It's your choice. But if we're talking about trying to craft sentences and try to do something that's a little more challenging, it takes it away from doing that simple comma with a word like and, which we certainly could do in this first example. So you'll see in this slide, those 2 punctuation marks are highlighted there. So let's look a little further at what's done, and you'll see what I've highlighted is the word that I've chosen to emphasize. Now, this is the key word that appears inside my claim statement or inside this thesis statement, and it's the idea of disappointment. Now, what I like about this, in the first sentence to use disappointment, is I've repeated it fairly close in location. It doesn't always have to be in that spot, like right afterwards. It can be done a little bit later in the secondary clause, but I think by doing it next to each other, you get this nice oral emphasis that's kind of created there. And the reason why this is effective is because it takes that key word and it forces the reader to pay attention to it by repeating it a second time or even a third time if you want to build on the construction. It's a way to create heavy emphasis on what is, or you identify as, the key idea or key component of that idea. A neat trick you can do later is taking that same word or a variation of it and then repeating it later within your essay. And then what you've got is this nice thread that's going to be running through your essay. It becomes this kind of echo effect, which makes your claim statement even more memorable, because by echoing it through your essay, you bring the reader back to the original claim, and you set yourself up for a nice concluding statement if you like. So that's our lesson on this type of compound construction. Again, if you want to look at some exercises on how to work with this, you can. One of the things to kind of note with this is these typically are not constructions that come in a first draft. They usually come in the revision process. Like all the tips and strategies we're going to give you, don't feel bad if in your writing it's not natural. It doesn't seem natural for you to write these kinds of sentences. The revision process is where that's supposed to take place. It's the kind of persistence that kind of makes for good writing. So get used to going back in. And when we talk about revision, that's what we mean. Re-seeing this paper in a new way, finding a new way to craft it and a new way to build it. Okay, that's all for today. We'll see you next time.